Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Capital City Baptist Church. Today's devotional is titled, How Much Longer Do We Wait? Acts chapter 1 verse 6 reads like this. So when they had come together, they began asking him, saying, Lord, is it at this time that you are restoring the kingdom to Israel? Now it has been over 2,000 years since the Lord returned to heaven. The disciples, the Apostle Paul, the events that eventually led to the present status of Christendom. And you have to wonder, why is he taking so long? Throughout the earth, we see persecution of Christianity taking on new levels. The people of Israel, though they have allies, they're more hated than they are loved. Spiritual conditions in just about all of the more so-called freer countries are heading in the wrong direction, embracing humanism, secularism, and kicking godliness and morality to the curb. Government officials celebrate more immorality than morality and pass legislation that sides more with wrongdoing than good. The truth is that things don't look very good. We are presently involved in a war, and as a consequence, we see our paychecks going far less. We hear of earthquakes and floods, mass killings in African countries, persecution of Christianity, and the rise of a false religion that is bent on stamping out Christianity and Judaism. You know, it seems like the coming of Messiah should be coming soon, or should have already happened. And then we have had some very prominent men who have each taken a turn, or two even, at predicting his coming, each time bringing embarrassment for themselves, their followers, and Christendom as a whole. And according to Michael Huffman in his article, The Return of Christ Predictions, I was surprised to learn that even revered figures such as Augustine, John Calvin, John Knox, Martin Luther, John Wesley, all suggested possible time periods for Jesus' return, though their speculation did vary from generally rounded centuries to specific years. But again, what's the delay? Of course, to fully understand the why of his tarry, we would have to be the Father himself. The Lord, when asked when he would return by his disciples and followers, he responded with a simple but yet complex answer, which he said, "It is not for you to know periods of time or appointed times which the Father has set by his own authority." Now, one would think that the Lord was almost trying to go around the question. But if we pay close attention, we find that the Lord's answer was definite and unequivocal. Not that we can compare ourselves to the Lord, but how often have we had to tell our own children, because I said so? I know that for modern thinking, they suggest that our children are entitled to an explanation for everything that we do, don't do, allow, or don't allow. But I beg to differ. Though we certainly love our children, we cannot always lead our families explaining every course of action. Sometimes we can fill them in, and sometimes we cannot. The military was a classic example of such consideration. As soldiers, we did not question orders. We obeyed them. And for good reason. Imagine arguing with your superiors of whether or not to attack or to retreat. Although there are situations where disobeying a direct order has brought about good, those are usually the exception and not the rule. Disobedience or failure to follow orders generally ends catastrophically. Thus, the importance of learning to follow orders. Now, when the Lord answered his disciples that it is not for you to know, he was not mincing words or seeking to avoid the question. He knew the disciples' inquiry was more than just curiosity. The question stemmed from their desire to not be separated from him. They wanted things on earth, In other words, their present day to change. And who could blame them, right? And they fully expected that in their day, all that the Lord had spoken about would come to pass and then he would come back. Of course, we know that that would not be the case, and for a very good reason. One that I think we fully cannot get our minds around, but is true. Are you ready to hear it? It's simple and complex because time is needed for all to be fulfilled. That's it. So many events have already taken place, some horrific, especially as it pertains to the Hebrew people, but also Christianity as a whole. If we were to take the time to study all that the people of Israel have suffered since the Lord's departure, one would think that much more, how much more could be possible? Persecution of people who profess allegiance to Christianity have been going on since the stoning of Stephen. But with all that has happened and continues to happen, time continues to be given for one thing to be carried out until the Lord considers it fulfilled. What is it? The Great Commission. The Great Commission was and is the central focus of Christendom. It has gone through waves of advancing and at times some stalling. But that was the number one instruction to the church, and it hasn't changed. We may think that this got to be the last generation. Frankly, partly because of the end times movies of the 70s and other later remakes and church studies on the books of Daniel, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, Revelations. With all that, I thought personally that surely my generation was the last one before Christ would come. But here I am, pushing mid-60s, and still the Lord tarries. So should we be discouraged, disappointed, or disillusioned? No, quite the contrary. We should be encouraged to the fullest extent that the Lord tarries because we are being given time. Time to continue to bring souls to Christ. Time to disciple new believers. Time to serve the Lord and encourage others to do the same. Time to demonstrate our love for God in all that we do. Time to rack up those heavenly crowns that we then get to throw at Jesus' feet according to his word. So, how much longer do we wait? Here's the conclusion to this whole matter. As we wait upon the Lord, whether he comes in our lifetime or not, whether he comes in 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, or 2,000 years, that must not change our focus. Yes, the times are tough, no question. But in Christ, regardless of the circumstances, we are more than conquerors. And so with that thought, let us serve the Lord with gladness. Let us serve him with all that we are. Let us serve the Lord now and forever until, yes, until he comes. May God bless you. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday and next week if he wills.